All right. Good morning and welcome to the Insurance and Pharmaceuticals Subcommittee of the Health and Government Operations Committee. Today we are meeting on House Bill 1375, which is Health Information Exchanges, Electronic Health Information, Sharing and Disclosure. We're going to start with Aaron Hopwood, who's going to explain what the bill does and speak to us about a couple of amendments that have been put on the bill. So Aaron, turn it over to you.
House Bill 1375 requires the Maryland Healthcare Commission to adopt regulations that require the state designated health information exchange to develop and maintain a consent management application that allows a person in interest to opt out of having electronic health information shared or disclosed by a health information exchange. There is a reprint that has been provided to you. If you look through the reprint, the amendment on page 3 in lines 13 through 24 would retain the current definition of health information exchange. So the bills introduced would have altered the definition of HIE, but the amendments retain the current definition. If you move on to page 6, the amendments require the Maryland Healthcare Commission's regulations governing access, use, maintenance, and disclosure and redisclosure of protected health information be in accordance with the Federal Cures Act and Title I of the Health General article. Beginning on line 14 of page 6, the bill requires the Healthcare Commission to adopt regulations that require the state designated health information exchange to provide an HIE with the opt-out status of a person in interest under certain circumstances, and require the HIE to obtain the opt-out status of a person in interest from the state designated information exchange before sharing or disclosing the electronic health information of the person in interest. Continuing on to page 7, the regulations will provide for certain penalties for noncompliance that may not exceed $10,000 per day that are determined based on certain factors. And there are amendments on line 7 of page 7 that require the regulations to allow the Department of Health, the Maryland Healthcare Commission, and HSCRC to use electronic health information for planning activities for public health purposes. And if you continue on to page 12, after line 16, there are amendments that require the Healthcare Commission, in consultation with their Health Information Exchange Policy Board and stakeholders, to make a recommendation on an updated statutory definition of health information exchange that addresses changing technology and functionality, the need to coordinate care, and the needs to address patient privacy and access. And the MHCC will report on its recommendations to the Senate Finance Committee and HGO by December 1st, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Delegate Kelly, what would
you
like us to know about the bill?
Sure. So just a reminder to the committee members, this bill came in late, and my greatest apologies for that. And we also had quite a bit of work to do. I think that we didn't really understand that the definition component of the bill would need more work. So what the amendments do is they take that component of the bill and they push it to, study, work, figure out what that definition should look like by December 1st to make recommendations to us to deal with that part next year, but to do the legwork necessary to make sure that all the stakeholders are on board. But that it was really important that we get that right. It went in originally just conforming with the federal definition, and I think we may need to have further discussion on what that actually looks like. So we don't want to make that decision in a rush. But what is left in the bill is this universal opt-out, which is incredibly important to a lot of stakeholders. And there's specialists on here who can answer these questions better than I can. But, the way I like to think about it is, we obviously have the state designated CRISP, the Health Information Exchange, that we get data from the state that we use. They would be the centralized opt-out point. So if you also have a MyChart from Hopkins or another health information from another service, I think there's probably 11 or 12 of them right now. But again, we don't have the definition updated, so I don't want to speak ahead of myself, but you would have one-stop shopping for opting out, which I think we have all learned in the last year with just figuring out how the COVID vaccine process works. Providing that one-stop shopping for our consumers is really important. So that's why we want to move forward with that part of the bill now. while we take a little bit more time to do the definition work to get it right. It is my understanding that all of the stakeholders are okay with that approach. And I especially want to thank the carriers for working in lightning speed to help us find amendments that would work for them.
Thank you, Delegate Kelly. I think I want to go to Ben Steffen next. Ben, because I know this bill is of particular interest to you. So can you tell us where you are, where MHCC is on the bill now?
Thank you, Chair Kellison, members of the committee. So we too want to apologize. It was because of us that the bill was late. We think over the last week, everyone has been diligent about looking at what could work and what needed to be set aside to be put aside for further study. I don't want anyone to lose sight of the fact that this is a step forward in terms of giving patients important new controls over the healthcare information that today flows through the healthcare system. It is not a perfect bill, but it is on balance important to move forward with protections of patient privacy. Now, we did look at this this morning and had two small changes that we wanted to suggest to the committee. And that is on page 3. We wanted, line 24, we wanted to change organizations to organizational.
I've got that, Ben. That was just an error.
Okay.
And then on page 7, this is self-inflicted on my part in terms of trying to clarify the basis for who was not covered. We realized that we added a change that conflicts with the uncodified language in section 3 on the last page. So what we would recommend to the committee is that we not change lines 28 through.
What page is this, Ben? I'm
This
sorry.
is on page 7.
Page 7, right?
And we go back to the original language on page 7, lines 28 through page 8. Line 3. So what we decided is that this language does somewhat broaden the definition of payer-owned HIEs that conflicts with the intent to study this. So if we return back to the original language, it keeps everything steady and consistent with the statements that we've made, that we would look at the definitions to reflect changes in technology and in the nature of how information flows in a study period during the interim and report back to the committee's next session. So I think that's consistent with the goal of the committee hearing, where there were some concerns voiced about not rushing forward. My apologies. In my attempt to clarify this on Saturday morning, I added some additional language that seems to broaden it in ways that we may not intend to do.
Is there anybody who has a question about this recommended change?
Can I just get clarification, Delegate?
Sure, Erin, go ahead.
So on page 7, lines 27 through 29, just revert to current law?
They revert to current law, that's correct.
Starting with line 27.
Starting with line 27.
Okay.
Would you need to also include 24 through 26 that's bracketed right now?
Mm.
It seems like you would.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely, because it follows, right?
As long as Deb is voting for that, it's very important.
I'm gonna have to look at this again, by the way, before I vote.
He's only allowed to move it.
Right, right. So does that, that puts us back sort of in current status?
That's correct. And
Right, okay.
no one, this was an attempt on my part to clarify this portion of the statute. Clarifying it did raise some questions that would make it seemingly conflict with the goal in the uncodified section to study the definition of health information exchange.
So I'll revert to current law in section A and B of 4302.3, because that's the applicability part.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have any concerns about that? Okay, so the two folks who expressed concerns about the bill initially were the carriers and HEAU. So I'm going to go to the carriers first. And Matt, you want to speak for the carriers, or Deb, you want to speak for the carriers? You guys want to tell us for sure where you are now?
I think that the letter I sent you guys Saturday morning should suffice.
Okay, says that you're on board with the study language. Okay,
And we get the table in the interim to work on the definition of HIE.
okay, super, super. And Pat O'Connor, you expressed some concerns.
We are good, and thank the commission and the committee for allowing time for the details to be tweaked.
Okay, Robin Elliott.
Robin Elliott, I worked with 18 consumer-oriented organizations and submitted testimony very rapidly on Friday. And I just want to thank the committee and the commission. This bill is so important for consumers. Consumers already have the legal ability to opt out of this sharing, but they don't know how. And so to give them that tool, and one of the public health reasons that we want consumers to be able to do this is some consumers are so afraid of their information being shared that they will not seek care. And so to empower them to be able to control their own information will help them integrate with the healthcare system, which is something I think everyone shares that goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, comments from the committee or anyone? Seeing no hands, do I have a motion on the amendments, including the two sort of technical amendments that were just recommended to us by Ben Steffen?
Move the amendments and the amended amendments.
Okay.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Delegate Krebs, you have a question? Comment?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand. So what's left in the bill, we still have the 11 information exchanges in Maryland being centralized into one place. Is that right? Just the 11?
I'm going to look to Ben.
And I want to thank Ben for
Clarify.
calling and trying to explain this to me. I really appreciate it. But so is that what we have left?
No, I wouldn't say they're centralized. The information
Yeah.
regarding consent is centralized, that before information can be released, an HIE in Maryland would interrogate a common consent directory and make sure that the patient had not opted out before information was shared, that information may transmit. It's not bringing everything together. The only information it's bringing together is a patient's choice on consent.
Okay, so that's out of the bill. So the broadly expanding, pulling this stuff together, we're not doing that. That's what you're coming back and reporting on. Is that right?
Well, we're not going to ever advocate for consolidating information.
Oh, okay, I don't know why I
Right.
thought that's, I don't know why I thought that's what this one amendment did early on. But that's okay. All right.
Yeah.
So then my next question, and Ben, you and I talked about this. Why you guys, I appreciate the study language. I think it's good. But the other thing that I know we might not have the ability to do this today, but I really think it's important as we move down this road of having access to information and sharing it, that there's the ability to do it granularly, to decide which things you want shared and which things you don't. Because, and I know it might not be available now, but I think as you, and we talked about this, as you study this, figure out how a person can decide what things, not just blanket, I want all of it shared or nothing. If there's a granular way to say, I want X, this doctor shared, that doctor shared, I think it would be better for people down the road to have that ability versus everything in my health records for all practitioners.
This is the first step in
Right.
that process.
I know, no, I'm just saying, just while you're doing it, I think that's important because more and more people will be willing to share stuff if it's more granularly allowed.
Yeah, I honestly believe, Delegate, that's the purpose of this bill.
No, I agree. I agree.
How to do that. So,
Okay.
as I said, as Ben has said, it is a first step and we definitely intend to get to where you're seeking, but we've got to probably take it in incremental steps.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Move
So
the
it's
amendment.
the
Did you- somebody move the amendments already?
amendments have been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing no hands, those in favor of the amendment say aye. Anybody opposed, please raise your hand in the participant panel. Seeing no hands, the amendments pass unanimously. Can I have a motion on the bill as amended?
Move the bill.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, the bill's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing no hands, those in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye. Those opposed, please raise your hand in the panel. Seeing no hands, the bill as amended passes unanimously. I want to thank you all for coming together this morning. That completes the work of the subcommittee for today. Thank you, Delegate Kelly, for your work on this bill and everyone for to get a bill that we could support, everyone could support. And there will be an HGO hearing at 1:30 today. Thank you all and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.